In the aftermath of Osama bin Laden's death, and in the perspective of the ongoing crises in North Africa, Euronews went to the headquarters of Europol to ask the director about security around the world.
Would you say Europe is a more threatened place now because Osama bin Laden was killed?
We mustn't underestimate the threat from terrorism, absolutely not. We have seen, I think, a change in the methodology, even the type of jihadi terrorism, than what we had 10 years ago when we had the awful attacks in the United States. We haven't had any major spectacular attacks in the recent years in Europe, not since Madrid and London. But let's not underestimate it. A lot of that is because of the excellent work of the police and security services in Europe that have denied the terrorists the opportunity to carry out those attacks. I know from the intelligence that we see that jihadi terrorist groups remain active. But they're going through a change. They're becoming more dislocated. They're becoming a looser set of networks. There's no great command and control network anymore from parts of Asia, for example. So it's a more fragmented threat that we face, and that makes it more dangerous. A threat that is operating on the internet. Individuals that have been radicalized, very often by propaganda on the internet, acting as so-called lone wolves carrying out these attacks. Very difficult to police, therefore. And I think the threat that we have from Europe today is substantial, and it's something that we have to face up to in a stronger and more concerted way in Europe.
But let's look at Stuxnet, for instance. It's a virus based on a very sophisticated code. It was called a cyber weapon because of its ability to search and destroy a particular target. What if the terrorists start using such sophisticated code? Is Europol ready?
I think this is a particular danger that we face, that this rapidly evolving environment where new, dangerous, malicious codeware is being developed at a very, very fast rate on the internet, currently being used by organized crime groups to generate literally billions of dollars of income in different ways across the internet, to target millions of citizens in Europe. I think we do face a potential threat where these tools become used by terrorists to carry out attacks on government facilities, critical national infrastructure, for example. We have to be very alert to this and make sure that governments, the law enforcement community in Europe are equipped to deal with these in the right way. And here at Europol we're busy developing an ambitious, dynamic new program to provide the headquarters, the centrepiece of the Europeans' law enforcement community's response to cybercrime. We look forward to the establishment of a new European cybercrime centre in the future, which I hope will be housed in this impressive new building of ours.
The question is if your cybercrime unit is ambitious enough?
Particularly in the field of cybercrime, we have an ambitious programme to develop our work. This work involves not just the traditional areas of working more with police contacts, but also with academia, with the private sector, working with industry. I have had many meetings in recent months with chief executive of internet security firms, particularly out of Silicon Valley in the United States, talking about how we can form a new program, a joint program, a platform, a community platform of activity, cooperation, information sharing, development of new forensic capabilities between industry, where so much of the best work is being done, and the law enforcement community as well. We certainly have to be progressive, think in different, sharper ways to develop a stronger capability, and that's what I expect to achieve at Europol in the coming years.
Drugs kill between 25,000 to 50,000 people in Europe every year. Does Europol lead something similar to what the US calls war on drugs?
I don't talk about a war on drugs. I think it's the wrong language. I think that very often the answer to defeating the problems of crime in society is finding, for example, a good connection between data privacy and data security, for example. The right of an agency like our own to collect data, but not to an excessive amount. The right for us to balance the interests of justice with security as well. And I think the language of a war on drugs is therefore gives the wrong impression. But it's true that we still face a very significant problem of drug consumption in Europe. A lot of it the product of sophisticated organised crime groups that are shipping dangerous drugs from all around the world to Europe in ever different ways. We have cocaine now entering Europe through the Adriatic, for example, through the Balkans, even through the Baltic states, even though it comes from the Western Hemisphere of Latin America. We have heroin, the roots of heroin multiplying around Europe. We have dangerous new synthetic drugs that are being produced in Europe that are causing increasing harm to society. Drugs is the traditional venue of organised crime activity. We have very many more new threats to deal with right now, but drugs remains a very important part of our work.
You're a father of 3. How does it make you feel seeing children trafficked for forced labour, for sexual abuse? And as the director of Europol, what are you doing to stop it?
Well, it's one of the worst areas of serious crimes that we have to deal with, of course. But it's a great privilege, to lead an organisation that can do something about it, that can add real value in society in protecting families and the children themselves, of course, from these terrible crimes. We have a real opportunity here to use our unique intelligence capabilities, the experts that we have, some of which are the best in Europe, our operational capabilities to give support in the field to real operations in really important cases. Earlier this year, we dismantled, as I said, one of the most important, significant child sex abuse networks in the world, and that allowed us to identify over 700 child sex offenders across Europe, and only through our analysis, only through the work of my forensic analysis that cracked the security code in that operation, were we able to break the case, identify so many suspects, which has since led to the dismantling of this group and in particular to the rescue of 230 children across Europe and beyond. That's real work, real meaningful work, and when I see that happening, I'm proud of the work of our experts, proud that we can make a real difference in society, because in this area especially, we have to have a decisive impact against the criminals that we're operating against.